already know, the main question that a lot of us want to ask you about is the numbers that came out about the
Yeah.
soldier suicides. And a lot has been said, a lot of criticism has floated out there that the Army has not done enough. I know you are implementing some new programs, but could you just speak a little bit on your thoughts on these numbers and how serious we need to start taking this issue?
Well, when people ask me what keeps me up at night, what I tell them is the thing that I worry most about is the long-term impacts on the mental health of our troops because of the repeated combat deployments. And this is it's human. You know, we are not made to deal with the horrors of combat. And so those are adding to the pressures on a force that is deploying at really rates that we can't sustain. We can't sustain 1 year out, 1 year back for much longer, and we're getting ready to improve on that. But that said, we have tackled this, I think, proactively, and we will be rolling out here in the next, I'd say, 90 to 120 days, a program we've been working on for the last year. It's called Comprehensive Soldier Fitness. And what we intend to do is raise mental fitness to the same level that we give to physical fitness, because physical and mental health go hand in hand. And you can build resiliency. In fact, there may be a mindset out there that says soldiers deploying to combat will all get post-traumatic stress. Well, that's not true. In fact, the vast majority of soldiers deploying have a positive growth experience because they're exposed to something very hard, very difficult, and they succeed. And so what we're trying to do is increase the percentage of our population that has positive growth experiences out of combat. It's going to take a while. We have seen a steady growth in suicides, not all related to deployments. About 1/3 took place in theater, 1/3 among people who have deployed but weren't deployed at the time, and the last third just had never even deployed. So it's a combination of things. When we look at what is the cause, I mean, what you most likely see, failed relationships mixed with drug and alcohol, with some financial challenges thrown in. All those things add up. Now, in the short term, we recognize that we've got to get the force's attention here and get the word out, one, that there is no stigma in seeking support for any type of illness. And the second point is get out there and get help as soon as you can, because you're not alone. And there are plenty of things out there to help everybody. We've made good progress in reducing the stigma, but we still have a long way to go. I've seen some surveys recently where half the folks out there, half the soldiers out there feel like it's okay to go out and get help. That's down from 70 to 80% who wouldn't seek support. But that's still half the force, so we have a long way to go.
General, can you talk about deployments? A lot of folks around Fort Bragg are worrying about repeated deployments, especially the 82nd Special Forces. Do you see Fort Bragg, 82nd guys taking more of a role in Afghanistan now?
Well, I mean, the division headquarters is headed that way.
Yeah.
Here's what I think you should expect, that I expect to see on deployments. In 2007, the President told us to increase the size of the Army by 74,000. One of the main purposes of that growth was to give us more capability so people would have to deploy less. So as we continue to grow, and as we continue to hold the force levels in Iraq and Afghanistan at about the same levels they are now, what you see is you gradually increase from 1 year out, 1 year back, like we were last year, to almost 18 months at home by the end of this year, to 18 months at home by the end of next year, and then almost 24 months at home by the end of 11. So what I would expect to see was gradual improvement in the time that the soldiers spend at home. I have come to believe in now almost 2 years that I've been in this job is that the single most important element of putting the Army back in balance is increasing the amount of time the soldiers spend at home. Not only for their own personal recovery and reintegration with their families, But it also, the longer you're at home, the more time you have to train to prepare to do other things. And it also gives the Army more time to get you the people and the equipment that you need to go on your next mission. So I expect to see that over time. Now, I think some decisions will be made over the course of the next few weeks. I'm not prejudging what might happen, but I would expect to see our numbers deployed increase slightly for about 6 months to a year before they start coming down fairly significantly.
You said you're going to see an increase in deployment numbers. Are we going to see a surge like we saw before, or is this going to be sort of a minor?
No, I don't. I would be careful with the term surge. Yeah. It's not going to be like it was in Iraq. The numbers may be similar, but as I said, the conditions in Afghanistan now aren't such where the immediate application of more American troops is going to have the result that it had in Iraq. The Afghan security forces are at about the level where the Iraqi security forces were in 2005, to give you some perspective on that. And so it'll be a few more years, I think, before we start seeing significant improvements there in Afghanistan.
Admiral Mullen has talked about the global economic crisis and possible ramifications. Any thoughts on how that could affect the Army, sir?
Well, I mean, I think everybody's looking at that, and obviously a strong economy is important to the security, for the long-term health and security of the country. The conventional wisdom in Washington is, then the budgets must come down. And I say, well, okay, but let's be careful. We have 150,000 men and women deployed around the country fighting a war, and another 150,000 training to get ready to take their places. And so we're at war. We were in our 8th year of war. And it's a long-term ideological struggle against an extremist network that attacked us on our soil. And so we need to approach that carefully, and we will. In fact, that's exactly what we're doing right now.
How have the interactions been with the new commander-in-chief?
I was, just my personal perspective, very positive. He came and talked to the chiefs in the tank. He was very open, asked great questions, listened. So off to a great start. I will tell you, the other thing that the new president did was last Friday he had all of the senior enlisted advisors from all the services to the Oval Office to talk about the health of the force. And that really is an unprecedented action. And the Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major Preston, who was there, said the last picture he has of a Sergeant Major of the Army with the President is with Lyndon Johnson. So it's so very, very, very positive.
Health of the force as in physically or mentally, or both?
Both. I mean, just the long-term health of the force. I mean, we're all looking at it, as you can imagine. But unfortunately, all the indicators we have are lagging indicators. And what we have to do is try to anticipate, because I believe there's a thin red line out there that will wander across, and we'll be in trouble. Because what will happen is the mid-level officers and non-commissioned officers will start to leave in large numbers, and it takes you a decade then to train their replacements. I got that from Shai Meyer, who was the chief of staff in 1980, who went to Congress and said the Army's hollow. And I said, what happened? He said, it's all about the people. And he talked about the thin red line. Mm-hmm. And so we're watching this very carefully. Now, lots of concern about the force. I will tell you, this is the most resilient professional combat seasoned force that I have ever been associated with in 38 years service. It's a magnificent Army, and it's succeeding brilliantly around the world.
You're the NCO. How can you what are your plans or thoughts or focus or ways to kind of emphasize that, bring it home to people?
Well, as I said, three primary goals. One is to recognize the contribution of the non-commissioned officers and their families. Two is to inform the public. And I was just up talking to members of Congress, and we're putting, for example, non-commissioned officers in congressional liaison to go up on the Hill so that the congressmen actually see the capabilities of these great young men and women. But probably the most important elements will come in enhancing their skills. And we will be piloting an Army career tracker with the non-commissioned officer corps, and this will allow soldiers to get on the system and track their careers, to look at courses and to take courses online to enhance their career. We'll roll out the Army Warrior University, where we have arrangements with 14 universities to accept credits from non-commissioned officer education toward college, and so that our non-commissioned officers will be able to get college credit for the military training that they have and put that toward their degrees. It's interesting. Last year in the Sergeant's Major Academy in Fort Bliss graduated about 650 Sergeant's Major. 95% of them had a degree. 50% of them finished the degree while they were there. Now that's a very different Army, and it's a much, much better Army.